Welcome back to the channel. This is John at the Powerlifter Garage. First, I'd like to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Guess I'm a week behind. It's actually like January. I don't know what the date is. But anyways, today I want to try to cover. So in the Maverick, I'm going to have to put my own custom fuse box, my own relays, fuel pump. There's a bunch of things I'm going to have to do. It's going to be standalone from the car. So I have to try to explain this as easy as I can with this stuff, but I'll try to keep you on track. But so anyways, this is a fuse panel I got off eBay, or not off eBay, jeez, off Amazon. It was like 12 bucks, I think. So I don't know if you can see it, but the top half of this lug up here is the positive, and the bottom half is the negative. So the negative is chassis ground. So you run this to the chassis. This is positive from the battery. And these 12 little lugs down here at the bottom, it's hard to see, will be the grounds to whatever I'm going to run grounds to. And up each side are screws. They'll be the positive that I run to whatever. So whether it be, well, won't be the headlights. It'll be engine stuff. So it'll be like fuel pump. It'll be the ECU, the starter, and all that stuff will be run out of this. So we'll use the fuel pump as an example. In a typical car, I wouldn't want, when I turn a key on, I wouldn't want 12 volts to stay at the fuel pump. Like I wouldn't want a 12 volt wire run the whole length of the car, because it could cause you problems as far as the car catching on fire and all that stuff. So the way that they do that, instead of running the wire the whole way back, so it's charged all the time. I guess the fuel pump's a bad example of that, because the fuel pump has to be running all the time. But anyways, they put relays in place. The way relays work are, so we'll say from the battery goes to the fuse box. Fuse box goes and it sits right here at this little relay. So these relays are usually in the fuse panels, either out in the engine bay or over in the up underneath your dash. So these things just sit there with the power, and then whenever you turn the key on, or like your headlights, if you pull the switch, what it does, it sends power to this little guy, which in turn kicks on and then sends the power back where it needs to go. So the power actually sits here. And also, instead of it using 12 volts to make this thing work, it only needs, I think it's like 7, but I could be wrong, but it's not, you don't need all 12 volts, but it will run 12 volts. So this one that I have is a 12 volt VDC, so it's 30 or 12 volt direct current. So all vehicles, I think, I don't know about Teslas, but all normal vehicles are DC. Your house wiring is AC. This is 30 amp, so if there's a fuse, which normally these aren't fused, like in your car, you won't have a fuse on this. This is already fused with 30 amp. So the way that I'm going to wire this up is I'll have to build another little thing like this on the side, and I'll have all these lined up for various things, like I said, ECU, fuel pump, sensors that are on the engine that need 12 volt. So I don't know if you can see that. Let's zoom you in so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so there you go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So on the bottom of this guy, you'll see these little posts on the bottom. The way that it works with these are, you have let's use blue. One of them will go to ground, so this will go to, it'll be the ground from the fuse box, which is actually chassis ground. So this one will go to ground. This top one goes to power. So it'll get power. It'll get power from the fuse box. So this will go to the fuse box. Fuse box. Okay. Now, this one is called, we call them, they're called triggers. So, so in theory, if I was doing this for headlights, so this would have a ground here from the fuse box. This will have a power from the fuse box. And then this trigger, like say if you're doing headlights, when you pull out on the headlight button, it makes contact, which in turn will send 12 volts to here. So this is actually power coming into this guy from whatever. Like I said, either the like a pull button or a toggle switch or a push, like a push button would be a good one for doing if you're doing starting a car. So if you're starting a car, this would have ground positive, and then this would be the push button. So when you hit the push button, it sends power into this, which in turn makes these contactors inside connect, and then sends power out. So the power from the fuse box comes down into here, and then there's a little switch. We got a different color here. There's a little switch right here that is normally closed or open. So whenever you have power coming in here and the ground, this little thing it'll close, and whenever it closes, it allows power to go through. So if the car's just sitting there idle and not doing anything, like if your car's in your driveway, the power it stops right here. The power can't go anywhere past this. So, like I said, if you're doing push start, the power is sitting here, and then this wire will run over to the starter. Well, this is the fuel pump on my diagram here, but we'll say starter. So this wire runs to the starter. So whenever you push the push button, it sends power to this post, or sorry, to the trigger, to this post, which in turn forces this thing to connect. Then it bridges the power through here. And then the power will go out to the starter, and then whenever you let off the push button, it kills this, which in turn breaks this again, and then the starter. So like if you have a key in your car and you turn the key to the whole way to start the car, that little, if you probably could feel the little spring in there, that little extra little bit for the starter. Whenever you do that, it sends power from that switch to one of these, and then in turn it allows power to go to the starter. And then whenever you let off that little bit on your starter, on your key, just a little bit, it breaks this signal, and then the starter stops. So if you ever hear your starter, when you turn it over, as soon as you make that contact, it does, and then whenever you let off of it, it stops. That's because it's breaking the contactor in this. And then it'll run over to, like I said, starter. This is fuel pump. So I'll have this wired up for the fuel pump, because the fuel pump, the trigger wire on my fuel pump will actually be run off the ECU. So whenever I wire out the ECU will have outputs on it that will send power different places. One of them is the fuel. It tells the fuel pump to kick on. Which one? Well, it's actually a relay. It tells the relay to allow 12 volt power to go to the fuel pump. So I'm actually going to be doing. Here, I'll show you. Let me back you back up again. Back up. I'm going to be running something like this, so which I guess I could open it. So this is what I'll be running. So basically, you'll flip this up. So all the power will actually come into here and then go from here into here. So whenever you flip this on, it takes all the power from the battery into here, and then from the battery into the fuse box, which in turn will light up all these little but it won't trigger them. It'll only put power to them. And then I know in my ECU it has a handful of like it needs power at a certain certain pins on the ECU. So what I'll do is I'll probably do this for the master, which will turn power on to the engine harness, like where I need power. Other than the body harness is separate. This is only for starting the car. So I'll flip this on. It'll turn power to these relays I'm putting in. And then the ACC, I'll flip one of these through the ECU, and then probably one for the fuel pump. I don't know if I'm doing that yet or not. Probably one for the ECU. But then I'll be able to push this button. So basically the way this works is when I flip this up and turn this on, it's going to put power into the fuse box, which in turn, so it'll put power here, and then power will go through this fuse from this wire to here, and then it'll sit on this little relay. And then when I flip this up for the ECU, it'll light up the computer. And then whenever you push this button, on the SR20, there's actually two power wires. There's a power wire to light up the ECU, and then there's a power wire that is for the starter. So the way that works is when you push this button, it'll actually put power to here, or to here, to the trigger from the ECU. So this will put power to the ECU. The ECU will in turn send a signal out to the starter saying, hey, you need to start. So when you push this, it puts power to the ECU. The ECU sends power to this side, which when you put power and ground to this, it bridges the gap in there. And then in turn, it'll send power out to the starter. So that's the game plan. If it 100% works the way I want it to, cool. If not, I don't know what I'll do. I'll figure it out. Like I said, you have to. The car is from 1970, and I have a 1990 or 1989 engine. So a lot of the things I'm doing just don't. They don't jive is the word I think I'm looking for. They just don't. They don't go together as well. But I wanted to show you. I'll explain it to you. On top of this little relay, it has a picture. So it says 30. It has this. Goes up. It has this. And over here has a. And then you have. This goes up. Alright. So. This is the picture that is on top of this relay. So, the way this works, if you see this little symbol here, so if you have a circle here and a circle here and you have a line like this, that's called normally open. So this thing is sitting here, that little, it's a finger in there basically that has its copper contactor. So when you're just sitting here, the way it's sitting on the table, it's sitting here like this, which means it's in the normal open position. So if you'd have one that would look like this, normally closed. So in this case, we're normally open. So the way that this works is this little picture here with the little square is the fuse that's on top. So this is the fuse. So so number 30 would go to 12 volt power. This is fun right upside down. Okay, so the way this picture is, so with me looking at this, I know power needs to come in here, and then it's in this visible link one here. But then the power will sit right here. Now, 87 is the other end. So this will go to, we'll say the starter. We'll do the starter. So 87 will go to the starter. Now, 85 and 86 are going to be your positive and negative. So this is going to be your, we'll say negative and positive. We'll just do it this way. So this will go to ground. So ground. And then this one is your trigger. Remember the trigger that we explained to you in here? So in my case, for the starter, this will go to it'll go to the ECU, or from the ECU. And if you look at the way this works, is this little picture here. So you run the ground, so this puts ground in here. And whenever you hit power to this, it comes up and it closes, it forces this little hand down, which in turn closes. So this is the ground, this is power. Like say, I'll take a battery. This goes to the positive terminal, let's say it goes to the negative terminal on a battery. This goes out to the starter. And this one goes to, we'll say a button. We'll say my push button on here. So the way that this thing's wired up is when you push that button, it puts power to here, which in turn forces this hand down, which allows 12 volts to go to the starter. I don't know if it makes any sense. I hope it does. And like I said, on the top of this, there's a picture of this. And these numbers that are at the bottom here, if you flip these over and look at the bottom of them, there's actually numbers on the little prongs. Yeah, so there's 30, 85, 86, and 87 on the bottom, which explains to you which wire goes where. So what's nice for me is, these are the ones I bought come with these little pigtails. So what's nice for me is the pigtails are, there's your 12 volt constant, there's the ground, and then I don't know which one's which here. 87 and 86. Alright, so this is 12 volt all the time, this is ground, this is your trigger, and this is your power out to whatever. And if you probably can't see this on video, but these two wires are the exact same diameter, and these two are thicker because you don't need 12 volts. You don't need as much amperage to make this thing close as you do sending power through it. If that makes any sense. But all right, probably confused everyone, but I hope this is informative. I will be doing more videos here real soon. I have a surprise coming up in the next, say probably the next week. I should have it ready for you guys to see. But as of now, I have the engine out. It's on the engine stand. I took both the oil pans off, replaced the rear mainsail, cleaned everything up, put it all back together. So in the next, like I said, next couple weeks, I will be mating the engine and transmission back up. We'll be doing a compression test on the engine, which I'll go through that and show you how to do it on your garage floor. So that'll be helpful and interesting. And then I haven't started working on the wiring yet, which I might start here soon. I have to figure out the drive shaft yet for the length and the end of the yoke, which I'll do a video explaining all that and what you have to figure out, what you have to do. I haven't even tried the clutch pedal yet, so that'll be a whole different learning curve. We'll also be doing a different style steering rack. So hopefully here soon I can make it to Johnny's You Pull It. Try to find a newer style rack and pinion instead of the old Pitman arm style, which will help me a lot with the space I have in there. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share. If it's helpful for you, pass it on. Just try to help me get the motivation to do this and to try to help you guys. Try to get the knowledge that I have out to you guys. So again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope everything works out for everyone.